Hello and welcome to my meditation. My name is Debra Baker and I'm so grateful that you have joined us for this little while. We are working our way through the 4 elements and looking at meditating on healing through those elements. And this week we are on air. Yeah. So let's get started. It just seemed appropriate to have my wind chimes on the screen. I think you can probably hear them a little as an example of air moving through our lives. And in addition to the air that we breathe, there's the air that moves through our world. So let's begin with 3 nice deep breaths. Breathing in, filling up your lungs with air, holding it for a moment, and then releasing it nice and slowly. And now take an even deeper breath, filling up your chest and your upper back. Holding it for a moment and then releasing it slowly. And now take the deepest breath you've taken all day. Fill up your chest, your upper back, and your belly. Hold it for a moment. And then release it nice and slowly. And now let's do what we can to relax our backs and relax our backs and the rest of our bodies so that we can really get into the space of meditation. So let's begin with our feet, ankles, lower legs, upper legs. So just press your feet and ankles and your legs together. What we're going to do is we're going to tense the muscles up and then we're going to relax them. And when we tense them, we're going to breathe in and squeeze it. And then when we breathe out, we're going to let our muscles relax. So put your feet and knees and legs together. Take a deep breath and then squeeze your legs together. And then let it go. And now pull up your glutes, tighten your glutes, pull up your pelvic floor, pull in your lower torso. We're going to do maybe between the tailbone and the waist. So just squeeze your pelvis. Take a breath. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And when you're ready, let it go. And now let's do in 2 stages from our waist to our shoulders. So bring your hands into gentle fists and bring them up to your shoulders. Oh yeah. And now pull your shoulders forward as though you're giving yourself a hug in the front. So squeeze in all of your abdominal muscles, squeeze in your hands and your arms, and stretch out your back. Take a breath. And squeeze, 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 squeeze. And when you're ready, let it go. And now we're going to go to the back. So draw your shoulder blades together, stretch out your belly, take a breath, and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze your back muscles together. And when you're ready, let it out. And now my favorite one, bring your shoulders up to your ears, tuck your chin. Imagine like squeezing all of your muscles of your head to your skull, pull your face in, take a breath. Squeeze your neck with your shoulders. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then let it go. Drop your shoulders. And let's just take a moment breathing into that. And so the element of air is healing kind of on at least 2 levels, probably several. But the first, of course, is breath work. And so just notice your breathing. Maybe it's slowing down a little as you relax into this meditation. And I invite you several times throughout the next week to notice your breath. And notice that how calming it can be to just allow yourself to take a nice deep breath, hold it for a moment, or for the count of whatever, 3, 4, 10, And then release it nice and slowly. And you do that 2 or 3 times and your whole system kind of resets. It's amazing. You know, I've heard it described in my yoga classes as, imagine that the breath is the infinite, the breath is God. And truly, if you think about it, we talk about drawing your last breath or drawing your first breath as though those things animate your body. They bring your body to life. And so the breath as life, the breath as God, moving in through and as us, is a great metaphor. The breath, you know, intentional breathing helps us to regulate, helps us to ground ourselves. And then there's the air, the outside air, the wind. You know, I think it's a Robert Louis Stevenson poem that says, "Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing by." So truly we don't see the wind, but we feel it, we know it's there. And it's similar to faith, you know, using the breath as a metaphor for God or the infinite or the one presence. We trust that it is there, that it is present, but we, in a sense, are powerless over it. You know, we can be intentional about our breathing, but when we are not intentional about it, it still continues. And so think of your breath as life, and know that we don't hold our breath. You know, we can't stop or squeeze our heart, you know, stop it from beating or hold on to it for a moment, because it's being in the flow. So instead of thinking of something to release, let's imagine that we are in the flow of life. Let's imagine that we are maybe in a hot air balloon that we know is going to be completely safe, because I don't know about you, but that makes me a little nervous. But just say we're in a nice, gentle, hot air balloon, and we trust that the air currents are going to bring us where we need to go. Just as we trust with each breath that it goes, that the air knows where to go, into our lungs and then into our bloodstream, into each organ and, you know, tissue all throughout our bodies. Just as the infinite, the one presence, knows where we need it to go. And we trust it. And so imagine as we're floating on this, up in this hot air balloon, instead of, you know, just the earth beneath us, we get to see a view of our lives. And we see how everything fits together. We see how what seemed like the wrong thing at the time turned out just fine, and maybe what seemed like the best thing maybe turned against us. You know, but then eventually turned around. The flow of life, just like the flow of our breath. And so what I'm suggesting about looking down from your wonderful hot air, peaceful hot air balloon is seeing that everything works out. Everything evolves and ends up for our highest good. So we can either resist it or trust it. So just notice your breath again and see if anything comes up for you that you need to let go of, that you need to just know that the one presence and the one power is moving in, through, and as you, and in and through every situation, every relationship, every job situation, every encounter. And continuing that metaphor of the hot air balloon, they have pilots. Hot air balloons have pilots, and they can control the direction of just the up and down of the hot air balloon by adding more heat or letting some of the heat out. And in the same way, we can make decisions about our lives by focusing more intently on what is ours to do, and not in a frantic sort of way, but in an intentional sort of way. Like, I trust the infinite is moving in, through, and as me, healing every soul in my body. And maybe letting the hot air out is about choosing not to focus on something. I've certainly had plenty of instances in my life, and I would imagine you have too, where you tried and tried and tried and tried and tried to make something happen and it just wouldn't happen. That's when you let the hot air out and you go to a different level and you just trust that your efforts are not needed right now. That the one presence and the one power is moving through your life in the direction of your highest good, giving you everything you need in every moment. And I've talked to several spirits lately who, people who have passed, who have said that the moment after they release their last breath, what they're met with is pure peace and pure love and magnificent beauty. And we can trust that. We know that God is moving in, through, and as us, in and through our lives, every situation for our highest good. We live in a friendly universe. So take a deep breath and notice that when you let go, like the pilot is letting go of the hot air, the balloon floats gently to the ground. It doesn't crash, it floats gently to the ground. And it lands softly. And there are people there to greet it. And so know that the wind is your friend. And think about, we've had some really windy days here in Kansas lately, and I notice it's blowing things away. And I was doing some gardening with a couple of my grandsons yesterday, and they were helping me pick up some of the dead leaves. And one of them, dropped some on the way to the compost bin, and they started to blow away. And he said, well, why don't we just put them all on the sidewalk and just let them blow away? Man, I loved his problem-solving genius. But there's some wisdom to that too, about just figuring out what we need to let go of, and then just letting it be, knowing that the universe will come along and release it for us. So we don't have to go to great lengths to do the releasing, to allow the healing to happen. We just have the awareness and invite the infinite in. The infinite is working on your behalf all the time. And I realized that I didn't talk about going outside and getting a breath of fresh air. And I don't want to be remiss in that, because there's something wonderful about getting fresh air, especially if you've been inside for a long time. So I highly recommend, as often as you can this week, for you not only to get as much fresh air, outside air, as you can, but also to notice it, to be mindful. I have the window open, as you may have guessed by the pictures of the wind chime, and it's nice to have the fresh air coming in here. And so let me remind you that you are whole and perfect, exactly as you are. The infinite energy, the life, the air we breathe is moving in through and as you all the time. And the one presence and the one power moving in through and as me honors and recognizes the one presence and the one power moving in through and as you. Namaste. Have a wonderful week.